Hello and welcome to a new HiCAD short clip. In this video, I will show you the new features in steel engineering in HiCAD 2026, Service Pack 1. The new HiCAD version includes the new truss configurator in the civil engineering functions area. This configurator can be used to configure different variants of trusses, namely, one-sided truss, that is, girder or column, double-sided truss, and double-sided truss with ridge joint. In our example, we use a double-sided truss. As in every dialog in HiCAD, it is also possible to define favorites here. I have already created a favorite for the double-sided truss with hollow beams as diagonals and select it now. The start and end points are then defined using 3D points. Optionally, the insertion can be projected onto the processing plane, if available. The preview image of the truss is displayed with the outline edges of the beams, which makes further settings much easier. At the beginning, the boundary dimensions of the truss can be defined. For example, the user can choose between the beam axes and the outer edges of the beams. The Semi-Finished Products tab can be used to define all semi-finished products of the truss, namely, for upper and lower chords, diagonals, and posts. This allows a freely selectable semi-finished product to be defined individually for each beam. During the insertion of the middle post, it is also possible to configure two beams in the case of a U-beam. In addition, the usage truss can be assigned either to assemblies, that is, for each individual truss assembly, or to the entire beam. This simplifies the configuration and control of drawing derivation. The beams of the upper and lower chords can also be divided as desired. The distances can be defined individually in the dialog window. The insertion and positioning of the truss beams can be defined in detail and precisely via the Fields tab. Here, the dimensional distances and the spacing creation method of the first diagonals, all dimensions of the spacing fields, the distances between the diagonals, and the distances between diagonals and posts can be determined. All parameters can be set both numerically and intuitively. The insertion and calculation method can also be adjusted at any time, depending on whether the diagonal beams and posts are to be connected to the upper and lower chords with freely definable distances, or placed so that the beam axes intersect at a common point. Optionally, galvanization holes can also be configured on the diagonals and posts. The truss inserted in this way can then be further processed using the steel engineering connections available in the connection libraries. In our case, I use the IH bracket connection for the connection to the hull columns. The connections are configured differently depending on the construction situation. I use the post joint, for example, to connect the upper and lower chords. Here, copying the connections is a good way to quickly achieve the desired result. Of course, as with any other connection in HiCAD, the parameters of the configurator can be edited and changed at any time via the feature log. Standardized dimensioning rules are available in the configuration database for the usage truss. This allows the workshop drawing to be created automatically with a single click. In our example, the corresponding workshop drawings are generated directly for 3 truss assemblies. As already mentioned, the dialog for the truss also offers other variants, such as the variant with a ridge and the one-sided truss. In this example, the steel engineering hall was planned and realized entirely with such trusses. For the columns, I would use the one-sided variant here. In addition to the distances, other parameters can also be defined, such as swapping the start and end of the beam and the inclination of the beam. The other columns can then be easily copied or mirrored. The second step involves the insertion of the truss with a ridge. A separate variant is available for this, which offers additional explicit settings for the ridge in addition to the standard parameters of the truss. The truss is inserted as usual by selecting the corresponding 3D points. Here, too, a preview supports the quick and easy adjustment of the truss. A separate tab is available in the dialog for the ridge of the truss. There you will find all the settings for creating the diagonals and posts as well as for defining the corresponding distances between them. Once the beam has been inserted, additional connections can be made manually. All existing steel engineering functions are available for this purpose, such as miter, trim, divide, as well as all other functions that can be used freely. This was a brief overview of the new truss configurator in HiCAD 2026, Service Pack 1. Thanks for watching, see you soon.